Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Hood. On this podcast, we have conversations that's real talk, marriage, divorce, money, and legacy. And I want you to join me on the journey. I share various insights from the hats that I've worn in my life that have helped me develop a full range of strategies and actionable steps that I've used to help my clients make strategic impact, both personally and professionally, to have better than what life has been given them. I want this podcast to challenge your thoughts and inspire you to grow so together we can operate in excellence. Today, I want to have a conversation a little bit about parenting. Because as we go through our divorce, that breakup and breakdown, we don't often think about how it's affecting our kids. We know that they're going through something. And I'm hoping and praying that y'all are not using your children as sounding boards for the chaos in your divorce. They're not equipped to handle that, and they should not be involved to that degree. But what you do need to do is be intentional and purposeful about how they're working through this process. As parents, we feel like we have to always be responsible for every little thing that they're going through. But there are some things that your children are walking through on an emotional level that you just may not be able to connect with, that you just may not have the insight or the wherewithal to support. This is where I want to encourage you. Invite others in that can be a support system for them. You may have to have a boys and girls club that give them an extra activity outside of you to give them a different thought about other things that they can do. You may need to put yourself in a different environment by introducing your children to therapy. One of the things that I did was create a family meeting. Having family meetings was a support system for me as much as it was for them. Because in the family meeting, I got the opportunity to see how my babies were doing. Sometimes they didn't want to talk a whole lot, but they did know that anybody can call a family meeting. And if they did, it was a safe space for them to share what they needed to. Now, you're going to have to set the rules in place for the family meeting so that they can know you can share what you want to share, but you need to be respectful. Opening up those opportunities helped me as much as it helped them because it reminded me of the times when I was little. You see, a lot of you already know that my grandmother raised me. And when my grandmother was doing her life lessons, she did them around the dining room table. The family meetings, in combination with the dining room table, became the platform that I used to help me help my babies through their process. Creating that safe environment gave me the chance to transfer the insight that I had learned to walk through this journey, and it gave me the opportunity to see how my babies were working through the process as well. I discovered that I had to share things in different ways. That's how I got more insight about knowing your audience. When you know who you're talking to, you gain enough clarity about how you may need to tweak the discussion. Because what I had to share with the 10-year-old, I had to share it a little bit different for the 4-year-old. And recognizing that I had to pull the information out in different ways to support them, it gave me a chance to see how they handled it. Because as I was explaining something to the other child, I learned how to explain my hurt, the pain, and get them to understand that you can share some elements on a simple form. Emotions are complicated, but we have a tendency to complicate things a little bit further. I don't want you to make this a complicated situation for your children. Find the simplest way of dealing with the simplest emotions. If they are upset and they're not sure how to express that, ask basics. If we had to count from 1 to 5, 5 is where you feel like this. Maybe you have to do it in an emotional stance with your body so they can physically see that you're walking through something. So by giving them a count, they can have a gauge to say, oh, I'm closer to 5 where I'm really, really upset and I'm really, really mad and I don't really want to talk. Or I'm closer to 1 where I don't mind talking about it. I think this is how I feel. And you go from there. Find what you need to do to give them the support that they need. Give them the tools that they need to walk through this journey because they're walking through it also. Sometimes we get all caught up in our own mess, the pain that we feel from our divorce, the chaos that we know is still walking around in our environments. And we forget that they are walking through it too. As you're going through this journey with your babies, give them a safe landing pad to be healed, to be whole, and to get to their best position. And that may mean you have to learn some new skills. So today I want to give you an insight about some of the skills and the tools that I had to learn to get there. First, creating that safe environment, be it a family meeting or the dining room table, so that you can transfer the insight that you're learning and you can gain some insight from your kids about how they're feeling. It was at the dining room table that I discovered from the silence that was seated in the soul of my son that he needed me to hold him a little bit longer than I used to. Because when we were married, his father did most of the holding and the hugging. That was his thing. I would make sure that you're okay. But now, on the heels of my divorce, my son still needed to be held. My son still needed to feel that closeness. And I did not pay enough attention when he was coming up under me all the time. I'm sitting like, why are you so close to me? What is your problem? When he was just trying to recapture some pieces that got lost. Don't let your babies get lost as you're going through the curves of life, trying to figure out how to make things be whole, make things be safe. Pause. The family meeting in the dining room table. Paused. That pause gave me a moment to see their position. Watching their position gave me an insight about the principles that I needed to apply to give them the tools that they needed to live this thing called life a little bit better. And a lot of you are aware. When I walk through the principles and precepts that I provide, it's often from my next level notes. So for those of you that are just getting a chance to meet me, a next level note is a biblical principle that you can use in everyday life. And I know a lot of people think that the Bible is a religious book. It is not. The Bible is a strategy guide. It was in that strategy guide that I learned how to use the dining room table to share knowledge, to gain insight, and to impart the transference of skills that my babies were going to need to get through the next mess. It was at the dining room table that I often saw in the Bible where kings shared lessons to conquer dominions. It was at the dining room table that I saw mothers giving the minor lessons that their babies needed just to keep their souls safe. And so I started applying those strategies and the principles because one of the strategies inside the Bible that it gave me was sharing the knowledge. There's a life skill that you are learning that your children are going to need to learn to get through this divorce. They're going to need to learn how to effectively communicate. They're going to need to learn how to deal with their emotional warfare. They're going to have to learn how to still be whole in the middle of chaos because you are learning it too. And as you learn it, the strategies that I got there was first acknowledge. Not often you'll hear me say, to get to your next level, you need to be clear about where you are today. If you're going to help your babies do better, be better, function better, you have to be clear about where they are today. And that may mean you'll have to feed them some of the emotional tools to get them through that journey. The book of Psalms is a book all about emotions. So if you aren't really sure about how to convey an emotion, while I was reading the book of Psalms with my kids, because I wanted to impart some of the lessons that I was learning. So I would read some of the information around the dining room table. And as I was reading some of the emotions that was inside the book of Psalms, my youngest or my oldest would say, Mom, that's how I feel. That gave me a clue to pause and dig a little bit deeper. But the beautiful thing about having that as a strategy from the Bible, I was not left to my own devices because often where that emotion was inside of the book, there was a life lesson that the Bible had already prepared and I could walk through it. I used the lessons of life that they experienced to figure out where I was navigating my journey. And then I pulled out the nuggets that I needed and started sharing that with the boys. As a result, I got the chance to know what was in their heart. As a result, I got the chance to know what was in their soul. As a result, family meetings And the lessons around the dining room table strengthened me, and gave us the support to build a better core as a family. So now that my boys are older, I can always go back and take a look at some of those things, but they, more than me, have something that they can go back to that lets them know if I ever walk into this situation again, because they already walked through the warfare that you walked through, they're already walking in the middle of your chaos of your divorce. But when you give them that landing pad to let them know, in case of emergency, use this. Those scriptures and those principles and those strategies that you're providing can be their parachute to safety as they continue to navigate the hurdles of life that they're walking through. And here's one last thing. Some of you have heard me say that if there's stuff inside of your soul that you need to get out, you know that I use the grill. Well, you can't teach your babies to be playing with fire, but what you can do is show them how to wash away the pain, wash away the aches, wash away the hurt. I put a bucket of water in the center of the floor when we had the family meetings, gave them separate sheets of paper so they can write out or draw out what they were feeling. And when they were done getting rid of the toxic emotion, throw it in the water. You can use that as a tool for you. But that's one way of transferring a thing that I did to support me to a lesson that they could use to support them. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else I've shared, here's the one thing I want you to know. You can create the environment that's safe enough for you to get the chance to meet the heart and soul of your babies. And while you're learning to do better, transfer that knowledge. Transfer that knowledge in that safe space of the family meeting or at the dining room table, because the life lessons that they need, you're going to need to give. And those moments, those are often the best moments that you can maximize of having them fully present and giving them all of you as well. So change the dynamic about what it looks like to be around the dining room table, or create the new space that you need in a family meeting so that they can say what they need to say, move on the way they need to move. If you're looking for someone to join you on the journey, feel free to go to my website, TanyaEhood.com. There you can click under the Work With Me tab and see the various ways that we can work with one another. And if you are on Instagram, you can join me live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so that we can continue the conversation, or we can start a new one. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same. When the waves are taking you